We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Boxing Ego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. It's not a game. Gervonta Davis absolutely rips Devin Haney, who said he had a great game plan in the Ryan Garcia fight. On Twitter, somebody wrote, Devin Haney says that he did everything right and had a great game plan against Ryan Garcia, but it's hard to beat someone who is doping on PEDs. Gervonta Davis seen this on Twitter and he replied to it. Do really a bit. Ninja said he had a great game plan. Ninja, no you didn't. We all seen the fight as a whole. You got your butt beat, bruv. Move on and get over it, says Gervonta Davis. Now, I mean, I'm not really talking about the name calling because, that's not my style. I don't do a bunch of name calling. Tank has a beef, so he's, speaking his opinion. But I want to give you guys my ego thoughts. Now, I think it is pretty absurd for Devin Haney to be on this interview with Andre Ward, all the smoke fight, and summarize the fight as basically, because I did see the pieces of the interview. I haven't watched the whole thing, but I've watched clips continuous. You see what I'm saying? With no cuts or edits or anything. And he was basically, and I'm paraphrasing, you guys can watch the interview, but basically Devin Haney was suggesting that why should he change? He said initially after the Ryan Garcia fight, he was like, yeah, you want to see what you did and what you could improve upon and what you could change in a fight that's ongoing, whether you win or lose. And he says now that Ryan doped and Ryan had the Ostarine in the system and flagged for that, he's saying upon further review, he didn't do anything wrong, basically, right? He says his team was fine, his training was fine, his game planning was fine, and he's basically throwing it all on Ryan testing positive for the Ostarine. And I'm here to tell you people, I don't condone cheating, which is why Ryan Garcia has been suspended by the commission, which I told you they were going to suspend him. Devin Haney's team wanted the loss as a positive, like +1, a win on his category. I told you that wasn't going to happen. It would be a no contest, no decision. Ego Stradamus strikes again. So to me, I feel it's absurd for Devin Haney to suggest that he did everything right and there's nothing that he needs to change. And the bottom of it, some people are going to disagree. I don't care. Start your own YouTube channel and you could talk about that on your channel. I'm going to talk about it on my channel. Don't condone cheating, never have, never will. Point blank, period. However, there were flaws shown by Devin Haney despite Ryan Garcia testing positive. Unless you believe that a SARM like Ostarine and the amounts that were in Ryan Garcia's system was the end all be all, and it gave him superhumanoid strength and turned him into a Marvel superhero. That's the only way you can make it make sense if you believe a SARM such as Ostarine enhances you to the point of turning you into basically a machine, a weapon. Now, there are hardcore PEDs. Different drugs provide more and more of an unfair advantage, like things like actual whatever, HGH, human growth hormone, elevated levels of testosterone. There's harder things out there, right? Like what Alexander Povetkin had, meldonium, right? And stanozolol and things like that, EPO, because unlike a lower level SARM, and you can ask any bodybuilder, a lower level SARM like Ostarine, that is not what you would even take by itself in order to jockey for an unfair advantage, if that makes sense. Like, for example, let's say there's somebody who's a junkie. People who are junkies, drug addicts, strung out, Pookie. We'll just say Pookie from New Jack. Keep calling me, man. Scotty, I don't want to die. Scotty, I don't keep calling me, man. Like you off that town dope. If you're a junkie, you're looking to get high. That's how that works, right? So you're looking to get high. You're going to want whatever your hardcore drug of choice is, be it meth, crack, dope, smack, whatever, ice, whatever you like, you know. And I don't do drugs, but you live in the Bay Area long enough, you see people who are addicted. Kind of how that goes, right? So the point I'm making is this: if you're a substance abuser, you're looking to get high. You want to duplicate your first high, things like that. So you're not going to smoke basil leaf or something lower level, because that's not going to satisfy the craving that you have to get high. Again, in my honest opinion, if you were going to take a drug to cheat because you thought you were going to lose, it wouldn't be a SARM in general, most likely, and it wouldn't be Ostarine, right? At the very least, it would be a PED cocktail, and you're just mixing and matching different stuff, and that Ostarine could be a part of it, right? Like in conjunction with other things. But then now we start going into speculation. He didn't get flagged for anything else but Ostarine. So from a legal perspective, you can only charge. Why do you think they had to charge Al Capone with tax evasion? Because you can, despite you have circumstantial evidence or people you believe that he's off and he's done more heinous crimes, you couldn't charge him with that. So that's how that works. You can't charge Ryan Garcia because you speculate that he had all this other stuff in his system outside of what actually flagged, which is Ostarine. So for Devin to just be like, man, I did everything right, and you know, you just can't beat someone on PEDs. It's really a coping mechanism, because I can tell you off the top of my dome, because I'm the best in the business, and it's not even close. There's several fighters that have beaten people who are on something equivalent to Ostarine, if not harder and more hardcore than Ostarine. Frank Martin beat Michelle Rivera, and he beat him, dropped him, and dominated him. Frank Martin was clean, like Devin, and Michelle Rivera, who's bigger than Frank Martin, right? And we're talking about Frank Martin. Michelle Rivera looked considerably bigger, unlike Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia, who looked about the same height and about the same size, to be honest, right? More recently, you had Crawford Madrimov card. Crawford's boy, Steve Nelson, fought a guy and knocked him out, and the guy later tested positive after the fight was already done and a conclusion was rendered. So that's two easy examples off the top of my head, if you believe that PEDs are the end-all be-all. Again, I'm not saying this to advocate for PEDs. Cheating is cheating, but two things can be right. A PED can help you in certain regards. Most of the time when people are taking PEDs, it's beforehand. Like even a bodybuilder, you're training for Mr. Olympia and you're on PEDs and you're injecting and doing all these things to get the look for when you grace the stage. You don't necessarily need to stick a needle in your butt right before the Mr. Olympia to do the flex off and pose down, right? Same thing with boxing. Now, there's no one rule for everybody, but I said this from the beginning, the time in which Ryan flagged is rather bizarre in that it was the fight week. You know it's hot, you know you're likely going to do at least the pre and post fight P-test and things like that. So it would be very foolish for you to intentionally be doping. And even Ryan Garcia, I'm not going to say was defended, but Andre Ward said this to Devin Haney, that he believes that Ryan had a lot of weight to lose. He heard upwards of like 14, 15 pounds, and he believes that has something to do. And knowingly or unknowingly, maybe someone said, hey, take this Ostarine, you got to shave this weight. But again, now we're teetering on a different edge of, is this something that Ryan has been on with the malicious intent to cheat Devin Haney. So again, you guys can see how you want. I'm being honest with you. Devin saying he did everything right is cap. He literally got blasted in the first 1-2 minutes of the first round and was hurt, and his legs look unsteady. Here's the other thing, and you gotta listen to what I'm saying and try to put it into perspective, right? I'm only providing my opinion and giving you perspective. Here's the issue. It was not found out until after the fight was already completed that Ryan had the Ostarine in the system, which means it was both people, unless Ryan intentionally cheated, which is, we'll just say, up for debate, but it doesn't matter. It means at the very least, Devin Haney, when he's fighting Ryan Garcia, did not know anything was in Ryan Garcia's system. So he's just fighting how he naturally would fight based on what's in front of him and what's happening in the fight, because it wasn't until later that it was discovered that Ryan, it was weeks later during Canelo Munguia fight in May where we discovered that Ryan tested positive. So it means Devin Haney was operating and making the adjustments he felt needed on the fly as per usual, because he didn't even know at the time that anything was in Ryan's system, and no one knew, even the commission, because if they knew, then the fight would have been canceled. So to me, I believe that Devin Haney, he couldn't get out the way of the left hook, and I don't believe a SARM like Ostarine is the only reason that you were getting clipped, including the first round, and getting hurt. You fought someone your age, around your size, with fast hands, with power, and long enough arms, speed, long enough arms. Age was like similar. He knew he can beat you, which only gave Ryan more confidence because he beat you 3 times. You beat him 3 times in the amateurs. So it was really a recipe for disaster from the onset. And I told you that. And in addition, Ryan was saying he was drinking and smoking and acting wild. So he also exuded this reckless, I don't give a F attitude towards the whole event. Like, I have nothing to lose. I'm just going to go out guns blazing. And that's what he did. Right. But again, I want to drive this point home. Devin Haney nor anybody else watching the fight knew anything about a positive test, which means since you don't know, it's not like Devin got back to his corner and was like, man, dad, he's hitting crazy hard. He's on something. So he's responding in real time based on how he would respond, whether it was a positive test or not, because you would be forced to make adjustments, and he couldn't stay out of the way of the punch, right? You think if Floyd Mayweather fought Ryan Garcia, he's going to look like Devin Haney? Like, ask yourself that question. If Pernell Whitaker, if Oscar De La Hoya, if Floyd Mayweather, right, fought the same drunken Ryan Garcia who didn't really have energy, he looked like he had to preserve his energy reserves, otherwise he would gas out, they would have all got knocked out by Ryan Garcia solely because he's on drugs. It's a cop-out. Drugs aren't good. That's why Ryan's being punished and suspended. But I don't believe for 1 minute that is the end all be all. Like, again, they say the punch that hurts you the most is the one you don't see. He jabbed Ryan Garcia, and then Ryan immediately responded with and just clipped him with the left hook. So again, unless you're under the pretense that was an Ostarine hook and Ryan is incapable, he throws the same hook in all of his Instagram videos, people, in all of his fights, people. Like that's why I don't think you can just let the blame lie solely on the Ostarine. If you want to say, hey, it aided Ryan, whatever. I'm not even going to argue semantics like that. But to say you did everything right is cap. Because again, Ryan throw the same dumb left hook every single fight. It's fast. I remember when he fought Javier Fortuna, people were calling it the phantom punch because it almost looked like he didn't even throw a punch. And people were like, that's cap. Fortuna, it was a fixed fight. He took a dive. And then sure enough, they slowed it down and he really caught him. That's literally what happened to Devin Haney. And here's the thing, when he fought Fortuna, he didn't test positive. So he clipped Fortuna with the same thing. And people have questioned certain fighters, including Devin Haney, his chin for a minute. It just so happens that there was someone capable that was in front of you that could pull the trigger, period. So I do not agree with Devin Haney that this is just a case of, oh man, it's impossible to beat somebody who's doping. That's cap. I gave you 2 examples, and I could give you more examples of people who beat somebody who tested positive, period. And again, if that's how you think drugs and steroids and PEDs work, then I'm not gonna even try to explain it to you. But for those who are receptive of the information delivered on Boxing Ego, it's the same as like, you could get on steroids right now. Yes, you, whoever's listening to this video, you're not gonna win Mr. Olympia because steroids are bad, steroids are cheating, steroids can give you strength gains, but there's a lot more that go into bodybuilding. Even if you're doing the same steroids, it's like you can have Ronaldo and give someone the same money he has, give him the same chef that he has. They're not going to play soccer like Ronaldo. You know, you could give someone else the same shoes, the same basketball as a Kobe Bryant. That doesn't mean they're going to be able to execute everything fully. And the same goes for, like I said, cheating and bodybuilding. That alone is not going to carry, because if that's the case, then you should see a lot more average Joes who literally are on the couch and then just wake up, do a cycle of steroids. They don't care about putting poison in their body, and then they should win Mr. Olympia or be in the NFL. Again, there's other things that go into it. You're not going to go to the NFL combine and just be juiced up and you're rawer than DK Metcalf or whoever, Nick Bosa. It's just not a reality. And the same in boxing. Again, the Haneyacks, they're going to try to spin this as if I'm an advocate for doping. I ain't never been that. In fact, when Floyd Mayweather was saying it, a lot of you chumps was saying that Floyd was scared when he was telling Pacquiao to take the test. And my channel was advocating for a clean sport. So it's not about being clean or dirty. What's done in the dark comes to light. Ryan Garcia is now being penalized for his actions. But I, once again, do not believe that this is solely the result of Ostarine in Ryan Garcia's system that made all of the difference. Now, how it got in his system and stuff like that, you have to ask Ryan and his team. And, you know, everyone's going to have their opinion on that. But again, it's not going to turn you and convert you into Usain Bolt because you did some steroids. So I reject this deposit from Devin Haney that he did everything right. And I feel like it's going to be harder for him to bounce back. Now, I never put a limit on what people can and can't do, but I will say I do believe it's going to be harder for him to bounce back because I don't think he's being realistic with himself to say that he doesn't need to change his team. He doesn't need to really alter anything. This is solely, it's hard to beat somebody on PEDs, and doping is why he lost. There, and here's the other thing, and I've said this before, it may be unpopular opinion, but I don't really care. When it comes to doping, you guys are so naive. There's a level of naivete in boxing that the only people who are doping in this sport are people who are getting caught. I'm here to tell you that's cap, because I know fighters, and I'm not going to put people's business. I'm not going to write a tell-all book, but I know fighters that I have close sources, and I'm not going to tell you how, that have told me that these fighters have juiced before, or they are juicers. And guess what? The fighters that I've been told and privy to this information have never been caught. But it's not my place to put that out there and reveal. So that's the other misconception. You guys have this misconception that the only people that are juicing or on something are only the people who a test has caught. There's so many people. It's like, I watch a lot of crime shows. The Golden State Killer, Edmund Kemper, the Zodiac Killer, right? there were so many more crimes that they committed, some of these guys, well before they were caught. Some of these people have had interactions with the police, and had the police acted different with Jeffrey Dahmer or Edmund Kemper, then they would have stopped future crimes that would have happened because the person would have been locked up from the earlier crimes, right? Sometimes the FBI and the forensic pathologists and stuff, they have to talk to the killer to get a better scale of how many crimes this person really committed, how many slayings that they actually did, because some of them are just cold cases and unsolved mysteries, and you didn't even attach this to this person. So it requires, once the killer's finally caught, it requires the killer to hip the police to, hey, I did this one in 1976. What about this one in 1972? I'm the one that did this one, right? So that's the same thing for boxing. You guys are just talking about the people who WADA, USADA have caught. There's other people who are doing stuff and their teams know how to beat the test, or they've been able to flesh it out their system, period.